Anyways, wanted to get that out of my system because I'm really excited about that.
That's good.
Let's get to our topics. The first one, as Drasten alluded to, probably our most anticipated movie of the summer, if not the year. Thanks to the absolute ridiculous viral marketing that Neon has done since January to slowly build up the hype for this movie.
I don't think we've seen marketing like this since probably Smile.
Smile, I mean, even then, like compared to Smile was elaborate but it was kind of instant. You know, it was just like a month before. Put people in the stadiums, which is a big thing to do. Yeah. You have people behind home plate in a playoff game, and you got some chick just smiling at the camera at the picture for like 9 innings. I mean, that's fucking rad. But like this was over the course of like January all the way up until last month. Little teasers, little just videos popping up and coded messages.
And a website with like files.
Like crime investigation files. Like just a wild viral marketing.
The phone number.
You can call and hear you can hear Longlegs talking to you.
Yeah.
Cuckoo.
But see, now here's the thing, man. Like I was super hyped about the marketing, but in the back of my mind, I'm trying to be a little pessimistic, or not pessimistic.
Grounded.
I'm trying to be like a little just cautiously optimistic because they're putting all this effort into marketing, but is the movie going to be any good? This isn't like Warner Brothers or a big. This is Neon. They're an independent studio. They're kind
of like A24, right? Just smaller.
They're sort of like they're probably just under A24 in terms of like their size.
Like a Blumhouse maybe or something.
Yeah, a lot of indie movies. And so I was like, okay, the marketing's been awesome, but is this movie going to be good? And then slowly, about a month or two ago, previews started going on. And then people started taking to TikTok and YouTube. And they're going, shit's fucking nuts.
It was all consistent.
Consistent across the board. But at the same time, like, the consistent message made me think, is this just something that Neon said, hey, if you talk about the movie, mention these points along with your own thoughts. But just make sure you have the consistent points, like buzzwords and shit like that. So I'm like, okay, that's awesome. But, like, is it really that good? Is it really going to be? You have this dynamite viral marketing. You got the preview buzz from people that were gifted a ticket from Neon. You know, like how much that was to sway their opinion.
And the trailers revealed nothing.
Next to nothing. But at the same time, insanely effective trailers. Mm-hmm. Thanks to the audio design, the music that was playing, some of the sound effects you heard, just very effective trailers. So we had the previews, we had the buzz, and then the reviews started coming in, sitting at 100% the first week, into the mid-90s with more coming in. I was like, okay, now the reviews are there. The marketing buzz was there. People are talking about it on social media. It's buzzing. Finally, we're like, all right, dude, I wanted to go see it Thursday night, but then I had to go up north. So I did my best to stay the fuck off social media. I wanted nothing ruined.
Yep.
Nothing ruined.
Yeah, I did the same.
I came home on Sunday. I took a power nap, met you guys and Britt over at the theater, and we're like, all right, let's go see this shit. Decent crowd. Mm-hmm. A pretty good crowd.
I was surprised.
Because normally for these types of movies, I'm not expecting a big audience.
Mm-hmm. Well, as a matter of fact, before we went and saw it, they were already pushing out the numbers of it. For
huge
the
preview night.
Yeah.
I think it was like 10 million.
Yeah, which is like for a horror movie?
On preview night? Like, there's some Marvel movies that, like the lower tier Marvel movies, that would barely hit 10 million, 9 million on premiere night. This thing starts making noise on premiere night. So we go in to see it. And guys, before I get into it, because I want to talk about this so badly, but I just want to go to Drasten first. He's the guest of honor.
Uh-oh.
And as somebody who's played D&D your whole life, you're aware of the aura around D&D back in the day.
Yeah.
Satanism and what was it called? The
Satanic Panic.
Satanic Panic. This movie is steeped in Satanism.
That's one way to put it.
I want to get your initial thoughts when we got out of the theater of what you thought of Longlegs.
Spoiler free, right?
Spoiler free as best as you can.
Yeah. So, like, I think we all have different flavors of horror that we're into. Yep. And this one, like, I wouldn't call it, to me, it's not a scary film.
I'm going to get to that question.
Okay.
And I feel like that's going to be a whole other talking point before we get into that.
But for the time period they were encapsulating the film where it was set, They just nailed that ethereal fear of, you know, everything's bad. And this gets to me, and we talked a little bit about this. To me, the film felt like a modern spin on Exorcist, where like there's that super power Satan vibe going through this story, you know,
Right.
and
There's something else there.
Yeah.
Outside the realm of like, you know, being grounded.
And you just, and I keep going back to Nightcrawler with Jake Gyllenhaal.
That's a great example.
It's a movie that when you watch Nightcrawler, you just feel dirty.
You need to go take a shower.
Yeah, I'm like, ugh. I just feel grimy because like it's that this film is that.
Yes.
I was just like, you're watching it, and you're like, I kind of want to stop watching this because I feel bad, but I really need to know how this ends. Like, what's been going on? What this, like, there's enough in there to be like, why is that way?
Right.
And then as the movie progresses and you start seeing, I'll just say symbolism and different things, you're just like, oh, look. Oh, look.
Yep.
Oh,
what is that over there?
and then you get out of the theater and then you're like, oh, but did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
And it just keeps digging at you. Like, they nailed a lot of points with this movie.
Tone?
Yeah, I you know, went into it thinking it was going to be more of the, you know, Zodiac-esque or the Seven, which we'd heard, and there's definitely a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it all of a sudden takes a turn and leans a completely other way, which typically with me, that's sometimes the horror realm that just like Exorcist and stuff like that. However, the one we recently watched, what is that?
Oh, The Omen?
The Omen. Yeah. I actually really like that movie. I thought it was a good movie. But, you know, some of that stuff's not always something that resonates with me. But if it's done different, good, which this did, and has the proper buildups, you know, I was invested. Like, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It could have literally just turned into be a slasher film.
Sure.
I probably would have been invested at that point because I was already invested from the marketing, from everything. The sound in this movie, the everything.
Yeah.
And there's some interesting things. We actually watched like a breakdown video earlier. Some things that I didn't even know or catch or realize. But the sound in general and some of the things they did with the sound was absolutely brilliant. We've watched some really good films over the last few years that lean into sound as part of the actual, it's almost like it's carrying you through the story.
They're leaning more into the atmosphere.
Right. And this does that, and it does it really well. Like, uncomfortably well.
Yeah.
Like, there are points where there are certain things and screams and loud noises, even the beginning of the film. Like, there's just things that it does with sounds and visuals where you're just like, it seems like what they're doing is so subtle and so easy and generic, but how they're using it makes it so impactful.
Yeah.
Well,
it's amazing.
Even some of the stylized things with what they did with the screen, where there were some things with it shrinking down to
when they did a flashback,
like a
you went to like the Betamax, like 4:3 format.
Yeah,
I
little
mean,
things like that are great.
And even images that flash on the screen quickly, you know, and
The
it's
snake and the blood and shit.
But just everything, even like in the backgrounds and different things, because like you said, you're picking it apart. You're starting to see things. You're picking up on shit as well too.
Yeah.
And then you get the big fucking reveal.
Yeah.
I mean, you get it kind of right away, surprisingly, but like my fucking God, like the first of all, I think we were all trying to catch on like who was what and what was who. We were kind of close in some ways, but when you finally got to Nick there,
man,
oh man, I you know, it's well known around here how much we love Nick Cage, but this is like a new realm for him.
Absolutely.
And like I want more of this.
It's probably the darkest that we've seen in all of his movies. I mean, if I think back, what's the Scorsese one with where he's the medic at night?
Oh God, that's actually a fucking
the name escapes me. That was a dark ass. That was a fucking dark movie.
Yeah. That's where he was seeing things.
Yeah, because he can't handle all the shit
like
that he's
movie
seen.
doesn't get a lot.
It does
of
not
discussion.
get. It doesn't get enough love.
It's kind of
at
unsettling
all.
as fuck too. But yeah, this was Dark Cage and his darkest moment, and man, it couldn't have come like if anything, I could have had more of it, but that's what made it so effective is that he was sprinkled in.
I think that's a great point because, like, you know, going into this movie, you know, my takeaway was like when I saw the trailers, okay, we got Seven covered, we've got Zodiac covered, we've got Silence of the Lambs covered.
Yeah, that's a good.
I mean, Silence of the Lambs is an easy one to do because you're like, okay, you've got your young FBI agent hunting down some of the serial killer. Obviously, you know, where Nick Cage is more of like a Buffalo Bill and Hannibal Lecter. You know, he's like everything. But like you have that dynamic. But the thing is, like, about this movie that I absolutely love, man, was just it doesn't need a massive cast. You basically got 5 main people. Yeah. You've got Maika Monroe, who is basically this generation's Scream Queen. I mean, she has done some awesome horror films over the last 10 years, starting with It Follows, and then several other just very effective horror movies. She's essentially this generation's Scream Queen. So she's doing a great job. You got Blair Underwood, who sometimes kind of slips under the radar.
She really does, actually.
You know, just does a really good job as kind of like her overseer, who she reports to at the FBI. And then you get Alicia Witt, who's mostly like, I think she's mostly done like funny shit.
Yeah.
She plays Maika Monroe's mom.
Yeah, unreal.
Unhinged.
Amazing job.
Crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
You got Kiernan Shipka, who shows up in a very small role, but a big role, as one of Longlegs' like first victims.
Yeah.
And then obviously Nick Cage. But like going into this movie, you know, I asked my brother because he saw it before me. And I go, "What'd you think about it?" And he goes, "Man, I really liked it." He goes, "But I would have liked more Cage." And immediately that kind of was like, okay. I remember reading something about like the movie doesn't have as much Cage as you'd think, and I was like, ooh. I'm like, I hope he doesn't just show up and just do a bit and leave.
Oh, God, no.
And so, but that helped recalibrate my expectations a little bit. And immediately I went back to like Silence of the Lambs. You know, Silence of the Lambs, Anthony Hopkins is fucking incredible, but he's not in that movie a whole lot.
Right.
You know, unless Jodie Foster goes to visit him, it's not like Hannibal, where it follows him everywhere, which I feel like takes away from that character. Yeah. And they kind of return to that with Red Dragon. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to recalibrate my expectations. I'm not going to get a lot of Cage, but I'm happy I'm going to get some Cage. And after seeing this movie, dude, we got the perfect amount of Cage. Mm-hmm. Because this movie is Maika Monroe's movie. This is all about her character. It's about Lee Harker. She's hunting down Longlegs. But man, and Oz Perkins did an interview at a preview last week and said to an interview, it's like, look, when you get somebody like Nicolas Cage in your movie, you don't get him to direct him and give him ideas. You lean into what Nick Cage does.
Oh, he's a true thespian.
You let him go and lean into it. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what he does here.
Well, you could tell, and we've seen stuff in interviews afterwards, that he really enjoyed this character. Like they just let him like build this character.
He spoke passionately about doing this film.
And normally you don't get that from him. Yeah. Normally, like Cage usually, I mean, first of all, he doesn't do a lot of like previews and interviews. Certain movies he does, other movies doesn't do shit. But this one, when he talks about it, there's something there.
Yeah, you can tell.
And so, like, we see this movie, and overall, I think we're all in agreement. This is a really, really good horror film. Horror thriller. I would say it's a horror thriller.
It felt more thriller to me than horror.
Yeah. And also I want to ask you, when the preview or the reviews came out, we saw a lot of these in the taglines. Scariest movie in the last decade. That's a bold statement.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of great horror films in the last decade. We've got everything from Hereditary to Midsommar to The Witch, Lighthouse. A lot of, The Conjuring, I think that's in that window somewhere. Yeah. We've had a lot of scary-ass fucking movies. But you brought it up before the show. You said, you know what? I think there's like, we're at right now, we're kind of like in this renaissance of horror where it's not all about jump scares. Mm-hmm. I think we're moving past jump scares being the main point of any horror film. This movie has jump scares. There's a couple that are littered
throughout. A couple, because you jump all the time.
Well, it's a couple of
I do right on each side of me doing it.
But this movie, being uncomfortable for 100 minutes, like you said, makes you feel dirty, makes you uncomfortable. These are horror elements. And so, in my opinion, is it the scariest movie in the last 10 years? I think that's up for debate. Honestly, I think that's up
very
for debate.
Subjective. Yeah, that's a stretch.
And if anything, I'd say The Conjuring is scarier due to the jump scares and they lean more into the horror elements of it. But like in terms like effective horror, being one of the most effective horror films in the last 10 years, I think this movie is right up there with the best one.
Yeah.
I think it's one you don't fully process it till you're done watching it. So,
Right.
so it's so unsettling that I remember looking over at you guys afterwards, and I'm like, "What did I just watch?"
right. We were just like, what?
Because it's so insane.
Boom.
Yeah, it just you just feel odd about it, right? So then you try to process it after you watch it, and you're like, okay, so this was this, and this was this, and you're trying to put all the pieces together, and they just don't go together because Cage's performance was great.
Oh,
Without having the screen time. I wouldn't wanted more of him. I didn't need to know. I didn't need to see more.
like
that's
like
amazing.
early on, like first of all, the opening 10 minutes with the little girl outside when he first, I was like, okay, cool, you set the tone. Like I'm ready to see
Right
what you're gonna
away.
give me with Nick Cage here.
Right.
Because when the
away.
title screen drops, you get that holy shit, like that was fucked
Yeah,
up.
and that screechingness.
Yes.
and
But the decisions he makes with the character throughout the movie and the bits and pieces that you get early on, you're just like, man, just unhinged,
The
taking
car.
chances. But dude, I'm gonna tell you right now, whether or not he
Yeah.
deserves some hardware.
Get it!
Oh, that was straight. Like when he did that, was like
That was-
only this guy
that was
would
un-
do
yeah.
this shit and say run with it.
And that was probably partly impromptu.
And I bet
Yes.
you Oz Perkins behind the camera was eating popcorn, going, "This is why we got this.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah,
This
exactly.
is why we got him."
I know it.
No one
I
else
know
could have pulled that scene off.
But for
exactly.
my money, the interrogation room
Oh God, yeah.
was peak tension.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, man, like the way he starts off to where he finishes it. But there's a moment in particular where he's like leaning in to talk to Harker, and I'm literally in my chair going, "I am terrified, but I'm leaning in with you."
Right.
Dude, he is like that scene right there. If he gets any kind of recognition for any kind of like hardware in the award season, that's the fucking scene they're going to show. Because that interrogation scene, I was just like, this man is cooking. And the director's just like, go.
Yeah.
I mean, that was peak. That was for me. That was like, this is the scariest this character's going to get.
Mhm.
And I mean, it's just, dude, it was just an effective movie. Didn't overstay its welcome.
Nope.
I thought the reveal at the end was easier to kind of swallow because, like you said, of all the things that you're kind of seeing throughout the movie, you're just like, wait, what was that? What was that? And that kind of just it builds up to like when you get to the reveal, you're like, you know what? I'm in.
Yeah.
I know where this is going.
Yeah.
It's not like a movie that promises,
It wasn't really trying to trick you.
and then tries
Yeah.
to do a swerve.
Yeah.
There's enough breadcrumbs throughout the movie
Yeah.
that when you get to the finale and realize, oh, this is where we're going, I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm cool with it, but it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in or like it's not jarring.
It's almost your birthday.
Ah.
Almost your birthday.
Do I have dolls in my house when I get home? It's all over, dude. But I mean, overall, though, I mean, guys, I feel like, for a movie, it's very difficult to live up to the hype.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When you have the viral marketing, you have the previews, you have the reviews, it's so difficult to meet those expectations.
And be kind of fresh.
And be fresh.
You can take things from good stuff, whether it's Silence of the Lambs, whether it's Zodiac, whether it's Seven. That's all great and fine and
Dude,
dandy.
that's great movies to be inspired
but
by.
can you stand on your own Longlegs? You know what I mean? I mean, Britt says the dread and unsettling atmosphere makes it more scary for her.
That's
And
why it's so
for
effective.
a lot of people, no doubt. That is it right there. And it does that. Like, you can take anything you want from a movie and put it into and take inspiration, but you have to be able to stand on it.
Yep.
And this does it and does it well. It's an enjoyable movie.
Yep.
It's an unsettling movie, and damn right it's a thriller for all intents and purposes.
It's a thriller with horror elements to it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you want to call it a horror film, I would say it is, because being scared and unsettled and uncomfortable for 100 minutes, that's scary.
Well, considering where all the stuff stems from, yeah, it's fine. Call that, I can't wait to be able to watch this. I can't wait to be able to get this out on digital or
Watch it downstairs, pay attention to everything.
and just rewatch it with that surround sound cranked.
Yes.
Do it all over again, and again, watch everything in the background.
Well,
so
not only that, like I try to look at things differently. Like, I'm a big fan of Terrifier and those
Yeah,
movies.
yeah. I mean, those are great films.
and
they're great
they're
films.
slashers for
Yeah.
sure. I think of what happens after this, and I feel like this is a Halloween costume someone could pull off.
Oh my God!
Where it's
yes.
just an unsettling person walking through the streets with the powdered face and the long hair,
doing some singing.
Yeah, and there are people that will have seen this movie that are going to be like, "Get away from me!"
Yeah.
You know,
Keep going up to
And
everybody.
then
fucked up.
I'm eating that up because this could be a Halloween costume for this year.
Yeah.
Because
Dude, that
I
would
could
be
love
dope.
walking up to people going, "Is it your birthday?
Is it the 14th?
It's the 14th.
Yeah,
I think we're all in agreement here, and we want to get your guys and girls' thoughts. I mean, let us know. I mean, when this movie came out and the reviews were high, I fully expected, honestly, based on what some of the people were saying, the preview people, I was expecting the cinema score to bottom out, much like Hereditary. I think Hereditary is one of the best horror films of the last 10 years, and most audience scores fucking hated it. Because it is a dark, depressing movie. There is no fucking good outcome.
Right.
But it was an effective horror film. This movie's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
But this movie was better received by audiences, better than I expected. I think it was at like a 60 or 70, which is really good for this type of film. When people are expecting horror and jump scares, I feel like people might have had their expectations in check just enough to be like, you know what? I can appreciate this as being horror, even though it's not the horror that I'm used to seeing.
Yeah. No, I know we keep saying it and it's redundant around here, but like his renaissance, what he's been doing the last decade, I mean, I'm always going to be one that goes right back to Pig and just talk about, it's just crazy to see him here and in a performance like Pig. And Pig, to me, like I have a hard time these days figuring out what my favorite Nick Cage movies are, because I feel like a lot of his past, there's almost like two different versions of Nick at this point.
There really is.
And I almost got to kind of wonder at this point, like, I mean, Face Off will always be a classic, you know, and I love The Rock and, Con Air. But, man, at this point, like, you got to start kind of wondering, like, he's just in a different zone. He's in a zone right now.
He's absolutely in a zone
right now.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at like the last couple of movies he's done.
Yeah.
This one, you had the one. What was the one we just saw recently?
Dream Scenario.
Dream Scenario.
I fucking love that movie.
That's a wild out there film. And then we talked about Pig. And we talked about Mandy. And we talked about, Willy's Wonderland. We talked about all these movies that he's done.
Minus Renfield.
I mean, you know what? I won't fault him because he is awesome. I loved him in that role.
Yeah, that's it.
But it's the surrounding stuff that failed him.
Yeah.
Like this movie, he's got the support from everybody.
Yeah.
He's got a great cast around him, and he's utilized to perfection. And like, I mean, it's a tough way to look at it. Like early 80s, 90s Cage, fucking some bangers.
Yeah.
Some bangers.
I think you hit it on the head. He's the type of actor that when he's in a film, you don't write the script for him. You just say, here's some lines, get close, and just do your thing, and then say, all right, we're gonna change the script to match that, and just let him go.
How do you plan on
you
playing
don't
this
cage
character?
the cage.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you unleash it.
You like
I thought that was
Uncage the cage.
Yeah, and dude's still waiting for a sequel to Gone in 60 Seconds. So he wants to hear that Eleanor.
Let's go. Let's ride.
Let's go.
I thought you were just talking about dude.
No. We want to get you guys and girls' thoughts. Let us know what you think of Longlegs. Let us know what you think of this renaissance of Nick Cage.
Yeah.
Or just in general, horror in 2024. Banger fucking year, dude.
Yeah. I know we keep saying it, you said it earlier already, but it's a horror renaissance right now. And I am, as somebody who's hard to be pulled into that genre for many years, during right now this like renaissance of it, it's been really.
And I think
really
it's good. The thing that makes it work so good is why it's so beneficial is because it's all different subgenres of horror.
Yeah.
That are rising up and staking their claim to that. It's not just like slashers and that's it.
Yeah.
Elevated horror, like thriller horror.
Even low budget, what would be considered B movie, like Terrifier is.
Terrifier
is getting great reviews.
Yeah. Cult followings.
They lean into what they are. They don't try to like put a spin on it. They lean in. Like Terrifier is a gory slasher.
Yeah,
and it always pushes the envelope every time, but it doesn't shy away from what it is.
Right.
But the thing I like about Terrifier is there is some dark humor layered throughout that.
God, it's great.
To perfection.
And don't forget, we get that this year too.
Terrifier 3 in October.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, it's just getting better and better. I mean, we've got Cuckoo coming out. Yeah. Cuckoo. And that's another Neon joint. I mean, they're leaning into A24's having a good year. I mean, we have. So, what's that?
I'm kidding.
We have some great. horror films coming out this year.
Yeah, Cuckoo looks really fucking good.
They ran a trailer at the theater. Again, Neon is like at that point now where I think they're ready to
They're ready
break
to,
out.
They're trying. They're hanging around that Blumhouse. They want to get that household name, and they're about there. So
Couple things about this weekend: 22.6 million, the number 2 opening behind what was it, Despicable or what's that for? Despicable Me 4 or whatever it is, which is to be expected. But 22.6 million. This is Neon, an independent distributor. This is their largest opening ever. It's Cage's biggest opening since 2007, which was Book of Secrets.
You love that film.
I love all those.
National Treasure, Book of Secrets. His
I will
biggest
eat that every day.
opening weekend since 2000. It's been 17 years since Cage has scored this big at the box office.
Wow.
Declaration of Independence.
And lastly, it's the only indie horror film of the past decade to open at 20
That
million.
was the big one I was really interested in.
I mean, this thing, like I said, man, all that marketing, all that buzz paid off. Now, it'll be interesting to see how it does week to week. Obviously, you got Twisters coming out this week, Deadpool the week after.
Which is reviewing
Twisters
all
looking
right.
pretty
I
good.
told you. I told you.
I know.
I
Sitting
told you.
at like a 79 or something like that.
Most are saying that it doesn't have the
Spectacle.
as the first one, but the story is actually what's tying this.
And you know what they say? Glenn Powell is a force to be reckoned with.
Telling you,
Like he's
I
getting some
told
big
you.
hitters lately.
Yeah, he
Like,
is.
I told you he turned my head after that last
Tom
movie.
Cruise showed up to the premiere.
Did he really?
Dude, he showed up because he's like a big fan of Glenn Powell and what he's doing.
He's gonna be the guy, I think, soon.
So yes, Twisters is reviewing very, very well, which is interesting.
Didn't see that coming, but
I hope it's good. Like I said,
On
I'm gonna
GD
try to
Pro.
see it. I hope it's good. But we'll have to see what happens, man. But I mean, like I said, whether or not this movie has the staying power, I don't expect Longlegs to hit 100 million. It won't do that during the middle of the summer. But it's just awesome to see a movie live up to the expectations and also be rewarded for it. So just get that thing on digital. Everything else is out in 3 or 4 weeks. This should be out next week on digital. I'd be happy with that. I'll download it and watch it a million times because I want to know what else I missed. All right, guys.